Hey everyone, today we're going to walk through how to build a governance framework with ServiceNow's policy and compliance management application. Within ServiceNow's integrated risk management suite, there's a number of different applications for things like regulatory change, risk management, cyber risk, enterprise and operational risk, internal audit, operational resilience, and so on. Today, we're going to focus on policy and compliance, which is essentially maintaining a library of policies and controls where policies get published to a portal and are easily accessible to anyone within the organization who should have access. There's four primary workflows that stem from our policy library. The first one being our annual policy review cycle to ensure policies are kept up to date. The second workflow being our policy acknowledgement campaigns. So employees can attest to policies once a year or whenever there's significant changes. The third workflow is for policy exceptions. And then the fourth workflow is geared towards connecting policies to controls and control framework requirements such as SOC 2, ISO 27000, PCI. And this process helps teams centrally store control evidence for certification audits so that you can efficiently demonstrate to external auditors, regulators that you have strong supporting policy documentation in place to support your internal controls. So really the four steps to building a framework are first off, establishing your entity structure, which might consist of systems, applications, processes. We then identify which regulations, which control frameworks are applicable to the business. Is it PCI, ISO, SOC 2, FedRAMP? We then define our review and approval workflow. And then lastly, once the policies go through our review and approval workflow, they get published to the knowledge base so that they're easily accessible to our employees. So let's go ahead and take a look. If I open up the compliance management workspace, here's really a purpose-built landing page for compliance managers, risk managers, policy owners. What I'm actually going to do before going through the details of our workspace, I want to switch over to the employee portal. So I'm just accessing the system as James Vitolo, a regular employee. And this is where they can log into a nice user-friendly interface to perform a wide range of tasks to really help them with their day-to-day work. So it's all built on ServiceNow and includes tasks like booking time off, completing their employee onboarding tasks for new employees, requesting access to new applications or ordering new hardware, attesting to policies that have been published within our global policy library, and then completing a number of different tasks for GRC, as well as things like setting your goals for the year. So really a one-stop shop where employees can perform a wide range of different tasks. If I switch back over to the compliance workspace, this is really our home screen, which has purpose-built dashboards showing our compliance towards different control frameworks. So we can see our percent complete against FedRAMP, ISO 27001, PCI, similar metrics for policies. So you can see your total compliance score, total number of high priority issues for different policies, compliance per entity, and then other metrics tracking things like control tests. So are these controls operating effectively? Key control indicators, control attestations for things like Sarbanes-Oxley. You typically need to do that quarterly. If we open up the policy library, I have access to all policies with the user I'm logged in as. So I'm just going to open up an example. We'll take a look at this acceptable use policy. Now the policy has different tabs. So there's quite a bit of information associated with this policy. On the overview tab, you can always see which step you're at in the life cycle. So if you're going through the annual review cycle, this policy has been published to our portal. We have more dashboards highlighting key performance indicators, key metrics for this individual policy. And then over on the right-hand side, we have some contextual information. So this policy is related to the different control frameworks, again, PCI, ISO, and so forth. The details page shows us the high-level information for this policy. So really things like name, type, which state it's in. We can also assign ownership to this policy. So who's the approvers, reviewers, when's this policy valid till? And then we can automate the cadence around our acknowledgement campaign or a review cycle so that instead of having to kick these off manually, you can genuinely set it and forget it and have the kind of annual review, or in this case, the acknowledgement campaign kicked off once a year. And the system can send out those notifications based on whatever frequency you set. We then get into this policy text. Now, this is a fairly new feature in ServiceNow. This is a native Microsoft OneDrive integration. And what this actually allows you to do, instead of attaching policies as a separate file, which requires you to kind of download and re-upload the policy every time you make changes, this native OneDrive integration just saves those changes real time. It allows multiple people to redline a policy simultaneously, just like they're working in Microsoft OneDrive. Changes are auto-save, so there's no having to download and re-upload the file every time you make changes. And then last thing here, you'll see this will include the latest changes. You have full version control. So you have a full revision history, which shows every single change that's been made to this policy. So pretty big step in creating a more efficient review cycle for your policies. You then have a history of all review cycles. So this history tab just shows us if we're doing an annual review once a year, you can always see the audit trail to show those review steps. And then control objectives is where we can make the connection from policies to our internal controls. So this policy is connected to 3 controls, one of those being manage change requests. And then if we actually go to click on this control, which the policy is associated to, this control has 10 different citations. So you can see the list here, NIST 853, ISO 27001. So by virtue of testing and collecting evidence for this one control, we're actually meeting 10 separate control framework requirements. So this connection point really gives us the kind of the logic of test one control and satisfy multiple requirements. Gives us a much more efficient certification auditing cycle, and really reduces audit fatigue internally, so we're not sending control owners repeat requests for the same documentation. So really a key piece to establishing a governance framework in ServiceNow. That really concludes our presentation. I hope this has been useful, and any questions, please do let us know. Thanks, everyone. Bye.